here. We're doing our weekly Thursday training, just sharing it with you of everything we're learning as a AI development agency as we shift into this new world of coding and leveraging all the agentic workflows. We're constantly every week tweaking our own process, but we're also changing our own mindset and how kind of our own roles as far as how we are shifting as team members, how we're working together, what our process is like. Um, and I'm very hopeful for the future as far as where this is all going, and how like developers are going to be leveraged and designers still in the future. But we're the job is shifting and kind of the expectations are shifting a little bit. And so today, I actually wanted to just talk specifically through that whole change because we're having some questions. I know we have some clients who are vibe coding their own apps. We had one client that was on a subscription and they canceled that subscription after like 5 years, and now they've gone and vibe coded their own app. And so there's some cool things happening, and it's exciting to see what's happening and where people are going. But I think there's a really critical role for builders and architects to be in the process and helping clients think through and strategize this. And so one thing I thought I wanted to illustrate is kind of what was before and after. And let me see if I can share this here with you guys. Um, there you go. So let me make this a little bigger. There you go. So this is kind of how it was, right? Like we used to spend as developers spend mostly like 80% of our time, I'd say like over on this world, coding, developing, writing code, testing things. And then there was a little bit of like project management, maybe, and there was a little bit of like communication and design, but either like a designer was handing you, prototypes, and you were just sitting there and like basically making the prototypes and the requirements doc, check all the boxes. So that has really shifted, I think, now in this kind of new world where like the code has become the 20%, right? Like this is over here on the 20% side. And now there's this expectation for a quote unquote developer, I'm like really thinking these are like an AI builder. Like our team, each of our team members are doing so much more than like writing code. Like we're doing client communication, we're doing design work, we're prototyping stuff, we're shaping things. And when I say design, I'm not thinking like pretty UI and colors. I'm thinking like real product design of thinking like how does this feature actually fit? How does it fit with the database design? How does it fit with like the user experience? Like, are we adding, too many features? How can we make it feel simple and easy? There's obviously the shaping process, that whole process of actually breadboarding things, trying lots of things, fat marker sketches. Um, and then this other big piece here is the testing. And the testing is now become like high expectation because people can go and do the 20%. And this is kind of how I'm explaining it to clients. Is like we're great. If you guys want to help us do some coding or even push in a PR or something, that's great. Like do the little 20% piece. What actually needs to happen to make this a really successful product or launch is to do the other 80%, which is the management, design, shaping, testing. That stuff is really that human side. And I don't want to downplay the coding piece because the brilliant part about this is when you work with a really experienced developer, like you work with someone on our team, they are senior developers who are now doing the AI coding as well, and they're doing the other piece. So you kind of have like this super AI builder um, person because you've got someone who understands the code at all of these layers. It's not a designer who's just thinking about design, or a product person who's just thinking about the product, or a QA person who's just QAing stuff. They're actually in the code and they know exactly how it works. And they were part of the process of writing the code, not just writing a quick prompt and setting and forgetting it. We're creating. So we're also like working on our team, of course, is how do we go and create AI tools to help us with the management, to help us with design, shaping, testing, etc., to make this work every single time. Because now that these tools are available and clients are starting to experience it, and other founders are starting to experience it, they're getting a taste of how they could build something. Um, but it's very easy to now like kind of give them all the power tools to go change the code and get access and give them database access. But we're seeing the flip side. I actually made a tweet this morning about this because we've been experimenting with with this a little bit, and I said here like, "Hey, we've been, we're experimenting with this, with putting AI tools in the hands of our clients. They're able to vibe code an idea quickly. They can, make small tweaks if they need to, and they started to feel a little more in control and the ownership of the app that they're investing in. But funny story, we had a client who had Supabase access in Perplexity and changed something, and the agent was like, "Hey, I think we should structure it this way," and he just said, "Yeah, sounds good," and it basically rebuilt the brand new schema for Supabase, changed a bunch of tables, changed a bunch of columns, and he just kept working. And then only a week or two later realized that he had basically broken the entire production app. And so now we're trying to roll that back for him and help him out. So it's not perfect by any means, because you have like basically giving people power tools here, and they can actually they can build some really cool stuff, but they also can break things really, really quickly. So putting guardrails in place, I think these are things we're going to keep tweaking as we experiment with clients being a little bit more involved in the process. Is giving them read-only access, for example, giving them much closer guardrails of like maybe doing things in a test database, for example, or working in their own branch, things like that. So it's also taking a lot to set this process up, just setting these tools up, getting them connected. You quickly realize that the coding piece, this is kind of what made me think of this, is like the coding piece of like building the app. There's so much management and knowledge that goes into how Git works and how like deployments work and databases work and servers work, and how having server side functions versus client side and all the stuff that we just kind of know as we're building things, and just a lot of experience building apps. um, you just know stuff is how it works, and so getting an app, for example, to run on a client's local machine, like it is a task. And I've been on a couple of these like 2-hour calls on Zoom, setting up, you know, Node, and setting up like installing all the pieces they need to run this stuff. And you just realize like this is when you have a completely non-developer computer to go set this stuff up the first time. It's a bit nerdy. And then of course we'll hook it up with Codex or hook it up with the Claude Code app, and then we'll show them how to do branches, and all that. So there's a quite a bit of a training step here, but we're experimenting with it and we're trying stuff. But I wanted to kind of just share this thought I had around this, was that where you can go and spend a lot of time, where it's an inefficient efficient use for our team, is on the other 80%. Like, how do we go and get like really, really good at this? And at the same time, like AI is now like being used across all of these. So you could really think about, AI's kind of all parts of this is going to be implemented with like AI, workflows for all of it. um, because that's kind of what makes these projects super efficient, and it's being able to think really clearly and taking a mangled like mess of a project. I mean, a lot of times like we have a project that kind of looks like this, right? And we have to take the nest and kind of pull out the strains and be like, okay, there's a project that starts here and ends there. There's actually a project that starts here and ends, and there's another one that goes like this. And that, like, going from like kind of um chaotic, thinking and figuring out and pulling the thread apart to these nice crispy projects is extremely rewarding. I think our whole team has really enjoyed the that process. I love this. It's like very therapeutic to get to this point. And this part is taking, a few hours of deep work, like working together, sitting on a Zoom call and thinking these problems through, thinking through how we can uh, bring it really clear, asking a lot of questions. And so that's kind of what work is kind of looking like that. It's not just us staring at terminal and staring at our IDE and coding stuff over here, in the coding world anymore. It's still, there's 100% that. I mean, I'm being a little generous. Maybe it's 20-30%. You guys get the idea. But a lot of our energy is set here, and this is actually the human piece, which is really fun. I think this whole 80% is all kind of driven by human interaction. It's us talking to the client, understanding what they need, understanding their business, and then using what we know about the code and kind of bringing that into, and what's possible with code, and bringing that into each conversation with clients. It's going really deep on shaping, and like me working with one of you guys on a shaping call, getting clear about framing, getting clear about like how does this actually affect the business. So that's really it's really fun because you get to kind of step away like this other bigger world outside of just me, writing code, and now I get to kind of be a part of this other layer of stuff. And so this is something I would encourage all developers right now to be focusing heavily on all of this human side, the process, getting super clear, knowing how to breadboard and shape, and that whole process of getting things to be super concrete. Because that skill, while you can like, just blurt out and use, a voice, you just do like a voice memo to an agent and have it kind of like bring your thoughts a little bit more clear. That part you can is still taking a human piece to get really, really good at it, and not just making it like you blurted out a bunch of requirements to me, and I just like organize them in an outline because it's kind of what AI does. It's actually like distilling it from like, oh, it's not this like blob. It's really just these two or three things. And so many projects or so many conversations we've had with customers recently, we have a founder who gets on and just is like, I want this, I want that. Hey, I've thought about this. I had this thought in the shower. I want to like, this is the new thing we need to do. Take all of the ideas and then we go sit for a few hours and we distill them down to like, hey, I think it's this. Like, I think this is really the problem. And this is really the outcome that person needs. And that is that is like where there's so much value there. So when we're building things, if you're a freelancer, if you're a builder, obviously you can go and sell your hours. And I think that part of it is, the hours of coding are becoming less valuable. So people can get a little scared of like, well, what does this mean for my job, my future career? But what is coming when if you can continue to make yourself incredibly valuable and bring value to the process, and that's all happening on this side. It's not that like you're just going to go and like you're doing a whole lot less work and you can, because this if you just do this, like you're just going to get you're going to get through all your work a lot faster. And if you're charging hourly, that's like you're going to basically make less money. But if you're keeping yourself very valuable on this side, but I think there's this idea like I kind of even in the last few weeks had a little bit of a shift because I was thinking like all of these pieces were really fitting into this little thin layer of that happens before the coding, or maybe I had thought it was like 50-50. I know I've drawn somewhere here and probably drawn this 100 times, but our little diagram of this, like there's this sort of this uphill piece, and then we go through the coding. So I kind of was thinking it's kind of 50-50. But the more I'm getting into it, I was like, this is, if you looked at like a cross section of our time on like in Toggle for a particular project, I honestly think this is really where so much of the work is being done, in the process. And a lot of where like the real movement in the process is happening here. And then we'll go off and we'll like code or we'll do a spike and we learn something and we come back. Um, that part is it's been interesting to see how that affects it. So we'll like end it there. I just this is sort of an hopefully encouraging everybody, not you know uh, putting scaring anyone in this new kind of reality that we're stepping into, but just essentially just keep leaning in, like be okay to be expanded and challenged, and kind of embrace this new way of like, hey, I can actually bring a lot more value. But you kind of come in as sort of like the technology expert into each of these different spaces and the different parts of the process, as sort of the coding tech expert. And a lot of people say like, hey, yeah, we're getting a promotion with AI, and now like the AI is doing the coding, and you're kind of senior management. I don't really know if that's it. Obviously, we're working very much. It's a lot more back and forth like that. Um, but just lean into that process would be my advice. And there's so much opportunity. I show this diagram of like the people who are like building things that are actually using code for this is just so tiny. There's a great graphic here, and I'll pull it in, and this will be the last thing I touch on. But if you guys have seen this, this has been shared a lot on X. But each dot is 3.2 million people. Uh, 60, let's look at the stats down here. So 84% have never even touched AI. 1.3 billion have a free chatbot user. 0.3% have actually paid more than $20 for AI. And 0.04% have actually used some sort of coding tool for AI. And I don't remember exactly, this is from April. So this is this month. This is crazy. Like, this should help reset everybody's like, yes, it's changing, but there's just the massive amounts of opportunity here in businesses that are not, forget AI. They're not even touching like web-based tools. We are talking to some customers now that are doing things on paper, that are using PDFs and printing things and faxing stuff. And we came in with like a form builder, and it's like, this is the future. Like, we can do forms and we can have someone submit a form here and we can process it this way. And it's going to affect hundreds of thousands of people with this tool. And there's industries out there that are just so like ripe for helping and bringing expertise to. So don't be sucked into the bubble of X and social media and kind of seeing all the things that could like, oh, like I don't know if we're going to be needed anymore in this space. Like, this is building things with quality is not going away. The craftsmanship of what we're building, having stuff, but you can't just rely on the 20% of coding and be like, oh, I coded it, I handed it back. That part is going away. Um, there's this expectation, especially around testing, especially around thinking through like fully formed features and not just, hey, this requirement or bug came in, I patched a code and it's fixed. It's like, did we really test it? Did we try it on all the devices? Did we think, did I put the app on my phone in my hand and I push the buttons and feel it? No, it didn't feel fast or it felt clunky. That's where you're going to bring a lot more value to it. Is kind of getting the sort of the finished shippable piece out into the world. So we'll open up for some conversation, and I'll probably go ahead and stop the stream here to keep it short. But hopefully this was helpful, and we'll see you guys